Nisayama in January 2020. We see a boy running through the forest at night. Suddenly, he falls, and we hear a voice calling out Hikaru's name. Another voice asks if they've found him. The boy gets up from the ground, grabs a flashlight, and keeps going. We hear the voice again calling for Hikaru, and saying it's no use. We hear another person saying they can't search here and should turn back. Meanwhile, the boy runs through the darkness of the rain-soaked forest, as if he's looking for something. We see an injured person saying Yoshiki. Then we see a backpack lying on the ground, and the boy calls out Hikaru, but he gives up when he sees it's just a tree trunk, and continues running. After that, we see a pained eye saying, "The great Unoki," and that he needs someone. Then we see the boy shouting Hikaru. Suddenly, we see an injured boy lying on the ground reaching out for help. Then, we shift to a bright morning. In the village of Kobatashi in July 2020, we hear a boy asking for some ice cream. He says the weather is nice and cool. Another boy responds, "This is all they have here," and shares the ice cream with another boy. He asks what the story is with the spelling mistakes here. We see two friends sitting together, one complaining to the other that the damn Mr. Hara is forcing them to wander under the scorching sun. One of them responds saying, "Hikaru, you need to watch your words." It becomes clear that the boy with blonde hair is Hikaru. He tells his friend, "You have a point," and starts eating the ice cream. His friend reminds him that they lost him for a whole week on that mountain, but Hikaru doesn't remember this. The boy is puzzled because his friend Hikaru doesn't recall it, even after half a year since the incident. Hikaru asks his friend what he's trying to achieve with these questions. His friend replies that they were extremely worried about him that day. Hikaru then asks his friend if he felt alone without him, and his friend answers no. But Hikaru calls him a liar, insisting he must have been crying and saying, "Hikaru, don't leave me alone." His friend puts his hands on his head. Hikaru feels upset at that moment and looks at his friend, accusing him of bullying him for being small. It becomes clear they were sitting at the school bus stop. We hear Hikaru's friend wanting to ask him a strange question. Hikaru jokes with him, asking if he will confess his love for him. His friend denies it, and clarifies that he's been thinking about something for a while. During this, we see a shadow looming over them. Hikaru's friend continues and says, "You're not Hikaru, are you?" Hikaru is surprised by his friend's words, saying he thought he was mimicking him perfectly. Suddenly, we see a face from which something strange emerges. His friend is astonished by this and drops the ice cream from his hands. Hikaru approaches his friend, his face showing this strange thing, and hugs him, asking him not to tell anyone. He continues, saying he found immense pleasure in living as a human, explaining that it's a real joy for him, and asks him not to tell anyone because he doesn't want to be killed. His friend falls silent, unable to speak from shock, and it becomes clear that Hikaru is gone with no way to change that. His friend cries and promises not to tell anyone about it. After a while, we hear someone asking what Hikaru will do after graduating from Kibugayama High School. We see that Hikaru has grown older. He explains that he doesn't know what he'll do after graduation, and continues that he'll work on his grandfather's farm. Then he looks at the person speaking and asks, "What about you, Yoshiki?" It becomes clear that his friend's name is Yoshiki. Yoshiki tells him he also doesn't know what he'll do after high school. Hikaru tells him he's smart and must leave the village and go to college in Tokyo. He jokes with him, saying, "You don't want to leave me, right?" We see Hikaru walking in the village telling Yoshiki that even if he finds a girlfriend in Tokyo, he will never leave Yoshiki's house so that Yoshiki won't take her away. We hear Yoshiki say, as if he could find a girlfriend. Hikaru tells him that he always frowns when talking about that, assuring him that he will find a girlfriend easily. After that, we see Hikaru walking, and Yoshiki puts his hand on him and asks how he is. Yoshiki asks Hikaru about the weekend. Hikaru tells him he's going to the mountains. Yoshiki asks why the mountains. Hikaru tells him it's a secret. Then we see Yoshiki waking up suddenly in his room. We hear someone saying, "Wake up, Yoshiki. Breakfast is ready." Meanwhile, Yoshiki is convincing himself it was just a dream about the last day he was alive. He continues, "The last thing he saw was mimicking Mr. Hara." We see him in pain on his bed, and someone calling out to him, saying breakfast is ready. We see Yoshiki coming down the stairs and seeing two women. One of the women asks him how he is and why he was awake all night. After that, we find Yoshiki having breakfast with someone, and he hears the weather news, and learns that this summer will be scorching. The person asks him about Kaoru. Is she still sleeping? And we see her sleeping. Then we return to Yoshiki, who is browsing on his phone. We hear a woman say Hikaru has arrived. Yoshiki gets up and goes, and we see Hikaru saying good morning. Yoshiki looks at him, leaves his house, and tells him they need to hurry now, otherwise, they'll be late. Hikaru looks at him and agrees, so they won't be scolded by Mr. Hera. We see Yoshiki and Hikaru walking down the road. Hikaru talks about his mom who prepared food and they gobbled it up. Meanwhile, Yoshiki looks at him and thinks to himself, it doesn't matter who Hikaru is, he's better than not being around. After that, we see someone named Tanaka carrying a bag with a hamster knocking on a door in a building. His company sent him to Kibugayama High School. In the next scene, we see a group of students practicing a song, including Yoshiki, with a schoolmate next to him mocking him as he sings. Yoshiki looks over at Hikaru, who's gazing in shock. Then we shift to Tanaka, who breaks into a room, followed by a man and a woman, and says there's something suspicious. He looks at a spot in the room and says yes, it's there. Then we see the student singing, while Tanaka rummages through the room. Suddenly, we see the face of a strange creature on the wall of the room as if it's singing along with the students. We see Tanaka breaking into a part of the room. Meanwhile, a teacher says there's talent among the students. Then we switch to Tanaka, who successfully breaks into this place. Next, we see Yoshiki's and Hikaru's classmate complaining on the stairs that he's exhausted and asks why there's a singing party among all the activities. Yoshiki explains that he thinks it's a compensation for last year's cancelled cultural festival. We hear Hikaru say he liked singing. Yoshiki says you didn't sing, you were just staring at the paper. Hikaru clarifies that he was curious to know the meaning of the song's lyrics. During this, two girls appear from behind and ask where they're going. They explain they don't have a science class but have a meeting in the classroom and will watch a movie. Here, Hikaru gets excited. Meanwhile, we see Tanaka talking on the phone, explaining that there's not a single atom related to this thing. We hear the voice on the line saying this is disappointing. Tanaka says it seems the company hasn't learned anything after centuries of research, and he can't believe it still exists. We see the girl talking to him in a deserted place, telling him to stop complaining about their company because someone might inform the managers. Tanaka reassures her not to worry because he takes his work seriously. He hangs up and goes to the room to see the man and woman hugging. He looks at them, thinking this will not be easy to find. We see the students in the classroom watching a movie. Yoshiki doesn't like this movie and looks at Hikaru, who is watching the film and crying. Yoshiki asks him why he's crying. Hikaru explains that they have seen this movie 5 times. He tells him that he knows it and it's stored in his memory, but for him, it's like watching it for the first time. Afterwards, we see Hikaru standing with Yoshiki, looking for his key. Yoshiki advises him to check his bag. At this moment, a girl asks her friend if she's practicing at home. We see Hikaru searching his bag for the key, and the two girls are joking with each other. Finally, Hikaru finds his key. We see a group of students about to play music. Yoshiki says to Hikaru, "Let's go." The students start playing music, and we see scenes from the school, students, and classrooms. Hikaru and Yoshiki walk and talk to each other, while players are playing baseball and others are playing volleyball. We see Hikaru and Yoshiki riding their bike down the road. We notice a sign for a shopping area on Daruma Street. Hikaru and Yoshiki see a poster for Master X Master, and Hikaru smiles. Then we see Hikaru holding food and looking very happy, looking at Yoshiki and saying they've eaten this sometimes. Yoshiki replies yes. Hikaru devours the food and shouts that this food is really delicious. Yoshiki advises him to lower his voice and wonders if he remembers the food experience, yet it feels new. Hikaru clarifies at that moment that he can recall memories, but not the experiences themselves. He explains that he wasn't alive before, and this is his first experience as a person. Yoshiki wonders if he is a ghost. Hikaru responds that he doesn't know. Then we see a cat approach them, and he continues that it's a fierce beast. The cat comes closer, and we learn its name is Mine. Yoshiki explains that this cat has grown big because the butcher feeds it meat all the time. Hikaru approaches the cat. Suddenly, the cat screams and runs away in fear of Hikaru. Hikaru is happy with the cat's quick escape. Yoshiki looks at that sadly and fearfully. Yoshiki asks Hikaru if there's anywhere he wants to visit in town. Hikaru asks him if he will go with him. He's surprised by Yoshiki because he's being nice to him. Yoshiki clarifies that it's not kindness but rather lenience for everyone, especially for himself. Hikaru doesn't understand what Yoshiki means, but he sees that he's always nice to him. Then we see an elderly lady standing outside a restaurant, asking for food. But when Hikaru rides past her, the woman panics and looks at him as he rides his bike. We see the friends walking on a bridge over water. Hikaru notices a dragonfly sitting on a bike. Yoshiki explains that the summer red dragonfly is completely different from the autumn red dragonfly. Hikaru asks him about the difference, but Yoshiki doesn't want to explain that now. He says that the autumn and summer red dragonflies are very similar, yet are 2 different types of dragonflies. Hikaru responds saying that's why they call you Emil. Yoshiki leaves him and wonders what this thing looks like. Hikaru but isn't. Hikaru asks him to wait for him. Yoshiki stands talking to himself, saying this is madness because he's humorously playing along with it and that he's really scared, not understanding why, and is almost losing his mind, but says even if this Hikaru is fake, he wants him to stay. Meanwhile, Hikaru asks him that he wants to continue reading Master X Master. Yoshiki looks at him and agrees, then looks at a spider house, and asks where he got to in his reading, and he understands from Hikaru that he's still at the beginning. He tells him he can continue reading at home, but he doesn't have the third part. Hikaru asks Yoshiki why he has 11 copies of the first part. At this moment, we see an old woman standing in front of them screaming, saying in panic why the great Nonuki has descended from the mountain. Hikaru wonders what she means, but Yoshiki tells him not to interfere. He explains these things frighten him. Hikaru understands this and takes a step back, but the woman panics from him and runs away, yelling for him to go away, and she enters her house and shuts the door. Yoshiki asks Hikaru to leave, but Hikaru's eyes turn red. After that, the friends reach the village, and Yoshiki asks Hikaru if the real Hikaru is dead. The fake Hikaru responds yes. He continues that his body is warm and his heart beats, but he is dead. He explains that when he found him, he was dying, and recounts what he remembers from that day, that he was wandering in the mountains for a long time, feeling nothing, and found Hikaru dying. Suddenly, he became like he is now. Yoshiki reaches the door of his house, and the fake Hikaru says, "See you tomorrow." Before he leaves, Yoshiki asks him if it pleases him. Hikaru is surprised and answers yes. Yoshiki thinks to himself this is the first time he says that, and tells him while crying not to leave him again, and goes into his house and closes the door. Hikaru leaves. Yoshiki dreams of this creature, and around him, people are talking, and we see a strange creature approaching the old woman's house. And the lady, scared, says go away. The creature speaks in a scary voice, asking her to open the door because he has a package for her. The lady, frightened, doesn't want to open it. At this moment, Yoshiki wakes up to the sound of his family, and we see the creature trying to enter the old woman's house, and Yoshiki is crying. The old lady says a package at this hour is unreasonable, and the creature knows she is inside, and repeats, "Oh, Lady Matsura." The lady screams and screams, and in this moment, we see Yoshiki crying. After that, silence falls in Lady Matsura's house. We hear Hikaru's voice saying he's inside. Lady Matsura turns her face and suddenly screams, and we hear Yoshiki's voice saying, "Good evening, Hikaru." After that, we see police standing in front of Lady Matsura's house, and she is identified by her daughter. Meanwhile, we see a man saying he is next. He continues that the great Nonuki is coming for him. During this, we see two men saying the endo rituals have failed. Then we move to Tanaka, who is on the phone with someone named Takeda, saying he will go there in the morning, and that he will offer help. He adds that he doesn't prefer to go to the village of Kobitashi, and that the villagers don't know what they are dealing with, and he won't be dealt with easily.